I mean, my favourite story of the year was the FTX fallout. Really, is what I'm going to call it. So, there was a period of time last year where Sam Bankman-Fried was like the poster child of crypto. He was the front man of crypto. He was the saviour of crypto. He was pledging billions of pounds to save Voyager. He was pledging billions of pounds to save BlockFi. He was looking after customer assets that had been used unscrupulously at these exchanges. And really, at no point did anybody think to themselves, where's this billions and billions of pounds coming from? Because they'd not had any really, really huge capital raises in the way that they would have this kind of money lying around to bail out these exchanges and look after them. And but that question was never asked for some reason. Basically, ending in their partner firm Alameda Research was using commingled customer funds, or allegedly using commingled customer funds. We don't know that yet, although there's been enough statements out there to say that that's fairly likely what was going on. So essentially, he was bailing out other crypto exchanges with your money, the money that you had on the exchange, which is obviously a massive no-no. He fled to Barbados, but has since been extradited back to America. I think he extradited himself. And in the process, we found out that the two co-founders, I think he's called Gary Wang and Caroline Ellison, they have basically dubbed him in. They've done a sweetheart deal with the feds. They have said this is exactly what happened. So really smart move by the feds. Let's just say there was quite a lot of people who were gunning for Sam Bankman-Fried. None of them released it until the Bahamas police had him in custody, and then once they had him in custody, they released all of their charges all together, and he was extradited back to the US. There was no jumping the gun. There was nobody trying to, step on each other's toes as they did it. It was a really smart piece of policing, and the truth's coming out now, and it looks really bad. And I think this has been a really big story for the crypto world. I don't think the crypto world is finished, but as far as I'm concerned about it now, I have zero interest in crypto whatsoever. It's just a footnote in history for me. I think in terms of credibility, it's completely shot to bits. What did you guys think about it?
It was the amount of investors that were involved in this doing little to no due diligence. And he was even telling them when they asked for proof of capital and things, he was just saying, we don't have any audited accounts. And they just went, oh, okay, then we'll give you Sequoia Capital, Altimeter Capital, who else was there?
Three Arrows Capital.
Yeah, BlackRock. These big investors just did very little due diligence on this and jumped on the bandwagon. But what I must say is I disagree with you completely on crypto being dead. I'm very surprised that you actually said that, because surely you see some validity in the crypto space itself. You must see some actual use case there and that it's possible. I mean, obviously without regulation, yeah, a lot of these places are just allowed to do whatever they want with the money, and I suppose that's the risk that you have to take to get in early here, I suppose. But no, I don't feel like crypto itself is
the ones that
dead.
with any validity are not the ones that are pushed to the forefront. No, the only ones that get pushed to the forefront are the ones that are all bollocks. The ones that have really bad tokenomics. The ones that are using the token as collateral to buy failing exchanges, the ones who are using their token as collateral, but also selling other people's collateral to crash other exchanges. It's just a massive load of scammers basically doing all the things we learned were wrong in the banking system and regulated out of the banking system ages ago. That's the problem we've got, is that I know history is doomed to repeat itself here, but we really are just making stupid mistakes and giving stupid people lots of money to do stupid things. And a lot of the times, a lot of people say, well, look at this thing can do this, and that's great. Yeah, but I often watch ISA Investors videos because I like to see what he's invested in. He says, but look at this crypto thing, Audius, it's great. Well, Audius is great, but we've got Spotify. We don't need Audius unless you can give me some markedly different benefit over it. And the benefit is what you can sell monkey JPEGs, with your artist signature on it. That's not
decentralization.
A benefit. That's just another load of... it's just another load of crap. I think the whole point of crypto, now that there's sort of like the fog of hype has been removed from it, has to be fully explained again to people and say like, well, go on, and what are you actually trying to do? Because if it is about selling monkey JPEGs and really crap tokenomics and scamming people and pump and dumps and what have you, then I'm not interested anymore.
See, I think it needs to get regulation first off, and once it gets regulation, I think there's real possibility here for crypto. And then after the regulation, you need to solidify the top crypto tokens, coins, whatever you want to call them, as a standard of money. And then you need to allow certain companies to be able to create tokens that are actually of value. Because at the moment, these people that are creating these tokens, like, I don't know, Jake Paul or something like that, have absolutely no value. They're literally selling you it so you can have it, right? Whereas, I personally believe if Manchester United were to sell you a crypto token that allowed you access to a year-long access to one of their seats, now there's value, right? There's actual benefit of crypto. You're cutting out a lot of middlemen. You can exchange that on their crypto exchange without anyone from Manchester United having to get involved. You can sell that without anyone having to get involved. So there's definitely things in there that can be done. But you're right, it needed this complete reset. And in my opinion, with you saying something like, "Oh, I don't want any part of it," that's surely for those speculators out there, at least, that's surely the time for us to be getting involved, right? While it's right on its knees.
Well, that's if you want to get involved in it, that's all well and good. But I feel like I've had a bit of a reckoning this year about crypto, in that I actually think it's all. I am. Before I thought Munger perhaps was just trying his hardest not to understand it. I actually think Munger pretty much understands it, and he's right about 99.99% of the projects that are out there. They're all crap. But the issue is that I now don't back myself to pick the 0.0001% of them that are actually going to create any value. And thus, I don't actually back anybody's ability to do that, insofar as I think they're almost all destined to fail because of that. Now, I think centralized digital currencies are quite interesting, but as people have pointed out in exchange in Discord, that they want to make them programmable. So, i.e., if we were to give out benefits via a Great British Bitcoin or whatever, a Britcoin as they want to call it, that would mean that when they hand that out to people, they would only be allowed to spend that benefit on food and housing and things like that. So it's kind of a restrictive benefit. And I don't know whether, I haven't thought about this enough on a sort of philosophical level, whether I actually agree with that or not, whether I think that's fair that people would receive a benefit and they would only be able to spend it in a very constricted sort of way. Now, that's a use case for a centralized coin, but I don't really like it. I don't think there's anything there. So that makes me think, well, that's an interesting use case, but that's not Bitcoin and that's not Ethereum. So what's going to happen with these? Where is that feature that I need that is better than anything else that's out there, that can't be replaced, can't be bettered? And I you know what? I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is. There's nothing when you look at these projects and you think, I couldn't do that elsewhere. Like your idea of the Man United thing, that's called a season pass. And if you wanted to give your season pass away or sell it to somebody, then you could still do that. And most season passes now come on an app on your phone. And if they tokenized it and you decided you didn't like Manchester United anymore and you wanted to be a Manchester City fan and you wanted to sell your season pass, then Manchester United get another cut of that? Is that something we really want to do? I'm not so sure, to be honest. I mean, what do we want? Tokenized JPEGs of Marcus Rashford, or do you know what I mean? Or the Red Devils, whatever he is, the mascot. I can't get excited about anything in crypto, and this might be the bottom. It might be me finally losing my cool. It might be the bottom, but I don't care. I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Munger has called this 100%, and the only thing, and this might be a thing this is going to be a trend, I think, with this show, is how long it takes for some of those predictions to actually come true. It can, you see Munger, and Munger has been calling it a scam, or at least calling the exchanges a scam for a good few years now. And it went up and up and up, and these big companies continued to get fat off it and then very lean off it. And now he's right, and it's incredible to see that all these old people who were booming and way over the hill on this one, they have got this correct, and they saw it coming a mile off. But that usually tells me, something like Munger and Buffett, that usually tells me that gives them an opportunity if they see any value in it. But like you say, nothing has actually changed, and I completely agree with that. But I still see validity in the process. I mean, Visa is currently trying to start its own centralized processing at the moment, and it kind of has the power to process it, but still you're creating a centralized system. The whole point of Bitcoin, Ethereum is this decentralized system, and where that plays a part in a world where all the countries, companies, everything like that have created their own singular centralized currencies. So it could be mental. Can you imagine a world where it does get mental and Manchester United releases its own coins? I mean, I know this is done in real life as well, but imagine, or Disney. Let's talk about Disney. That's even better example of this, where Disney releases its own centralized coins and calls them Disney Bucks or something like that, and it becomes its own currency, and you can only spend that money there. The exchanges and the exchange rates that we've got to come up with in that is incredible. It should make it more complicated.
That would be another win for the Simpsons, wouldn't it? Because there's itchy and scratchy land money that Homer buys, and you can only spend it in Disneyland and only some of the shops.
Yeah, well, this is it. I do think that Disneyland has its own currency. I don't think it gives you any discount or anything like that. It's just a currency that you can exchange and spend in the shops. Obviously, that takes manpower. Where the idea of these centralized and decentralized cryptos is to maintain it away from the manpower. But the question I want to ask you, right, is the one that's been blasted in my mind, is how the hell did Sam Bankman-Fried get $250 million for his bail?
Well, apparently his mum and dad put it up, didn't he? So that's what I understand. His mum and dad are
his mum and dad rich?
Or yeah, they're lawyers of some. Yeah, obviously. Of some. And apparently I would imagine the again, allegedly, is that he's been funneling some of his cash out to his mum and dad as well. So I assume that's probably OPM, other people's money. The other things that just came out of that, Steve, sorry, I don't know if you wanted to chime in on crypto. You don't look particularly enthused about it, but the other things that quickly came out of it was that they were running a $32 billion business on QuickBooks, which is meant to be for plumbers. And the vast majority of their internal comms and meetings were all done via Slack, and everything was set to auto-delete, so they have actually no corporate trail whatsoever. The auditor, Paul, his address was registered in Decentraland. Steve, do you know what Decentraland is?
No.
Decentraland is a metaverse with about 30 people who use it, and that's where the auditor for FTX was registered, and nobody realised.
Huh.
That's crazy. That I didn't know that one. That's mental. Obviously, lots of companies bought a lot of real estate in Decentraland, didn't they? Famously, Snoop Dogg has a place in Decentraland, and everyone was trying to buy fake houses next door to him because it was the next big thing. Or was it Sandbox? Sandbox was the other one as well, wasn't it?
Not sure.
Yeah. So it's crazy. The real estate on that was, I think it was something like $4 million for a plot of land in Decentraland, and they're currently going for something like 1,600.
This just seems like that whole excess liquidity we had that drove growth stocks up to and Cathie Wood style stocks all the way up to those highs. Exactly the same thing has happened in crypto. There's just excess liquidity, people throwing it into crap, and now it's all blown off the top. I now wonder what happens from this point forwards. Like, I don't think any of us are. We're looking at some growth stocks, but we're not rushing to get into the sort of we'll call them what they are, shitcoins that I'm ARCA buying. None of us are particularly rushing in that direction, but there are sort of areas of growth that we're sort of dabbling into where we think they have decent futures. I don't see many people saying, well, I'm not going to bother with stocks at the moment. I'm going to go and buy Sandcoin or whatever you called it earlier. I think that's crypto's biggest problem, and that might be an opportunity, but it also might be the fact that this was just a fad, and a lot of these things are going back to zero, because the top 10 of crypto, if you look back at it even 5 years ago, those top 10 are not the top 10 that were there. I mean, Bitcoin and Ethereum have been there for quite a while, but a lot of the others have gone to nothing, or gone to pretty much nothing, or have been completely rugged. And I think we're going to go through that again. And whether Ethereum and Bitcoin come out of that stronger or ever get to the kind of highs that they're at, I mean, I don't think so. I think
it's consolidation. I think it's consolidation. I don't think you're. I think you're thinking this is going to zero when this is consolidation now. People are coming out of the market and they're dropping all the shit coins, or they've lost all their money. Basically, Sam Bankman-Fried has just taken everyone's crypto
back to
money.
McDonald's.
Yeah, and you know they're going to get the hope again. But I think, at least I'd hope, these people who are I'm going to make big generalizations here, but these are all young 20 to 30 somethings. As they grow a bit older, they are going to consolidate into the main two, which have a bit more clout about them. Bitcoin, I think less, but I think Ethereum has real clout and real use case, and I think that you're going to see a consolidation back into that on the next big bull cycle. But I think everyone is going to wait for that big bull cycle to happen. I think I personally think that it's got a lot longer to go down. I think the whole market's possibly got a lot longer to go down, and I'm still buying. Like, I won't lie, I'm still buying Ethereum. You know, every couple of months I'll put 100 quid in. Don't get me wrong, I'm not buying loads, but I don't think I want to stop here. I think I haven't checked it in a while. It's one of those ones where I've had to turn it off. But I think it's about 60% down, which, to be honest with you, most stocks are around 60% down now. So I don't feel like I've lost out, and particularly by buying Ethereum at certain points.
Yeah, so I'll just weigh in a little bit on this one. I've been sitting on the sidelines of this discussion, and I've got plenty wrong in 2022 and before. But the crypto stuff is something that I haven't found it terribly difficult to just sit and watch. I haven't really felt the draw to be kind of hooked into this one. Previous listeners to the podcast will have either heard me sitting quietly, if you can hear such a thing, or heard me making comments about that display my lack of an understanding of this kind of thing at all. I was interested in the idea that Visa are trying to build out their own kind of versions of this sort of stuff. It's not so long ago, at least in my memory anyway, a couple of years maybe at most, that crypto was going to be the thing that basically ended Visa and MasterCard and their kind of duopoly dominance of Rails. We were going to have new Rails, which would leave the old Rails defunct, and so on and so forth. And this is very much gone. The thing I'm kind of interested in from the Munger perspective here, I mean, he's an old guy, and old people tend naturally to be a bit more sceptical of changing things, and sometimes they're right about that and sometimes they're wrong about that. And so far we're going with the idea that Charlie Munger's right about that. Let's see what the next few years brings, I guess. A year ago he was wrong about it, but his main thing about crypto is that it's particularly conducive to criminal activity in a way that other things aren't. Because look, you can make the point against him perfectly well that, look, there's been fraud and scandal at Wells Fargo, there's been fraud and scandal at American Express, there's been fraud and scandal at Wirecard. These are not crypto things. There's plenty fraud and scandal going on anywhere else, but directly we see something going on in FTX. Oh, look, it's all crypto, and crypto is terrible, and therefore we should get rid of crypto, and so on. Do you think that, Steve, there's anything sort of particularly conducive to this about crypto? I mean, this looks like a kind of extreme example, sure, but we get fraud and stuff anywhere else. Crypto particularly bad for this sort of thing? Is Munger right about that?
I don't think he is. No, I don't think it is particularly conducive to fraud and to criminality. I think that happens pretty much everywhere. I think there's always a short report coming out that says, you know, this is a fraud and this is, you know, that's a fraud. And I mean, we've had it with Nanox and recently with DLocal, and Ehang was one as well in China. And I remember the large forestry company in China that didn't actually have any trees. You know, we're constantly experiencing fraud, but is it conducive to fraud? It has to be, because it's not regulated. When it's not regulated, there is always a likelihood that that's a very good place to go and, you know, and do your fraud. Now, I'm not talking about the top level. I don't necessarily think at the top level of the sort of top 10 coins that there's a particularly high amount of fraud in that. But in the lower end of the stuff, the stuff that Logan Paul's putting out, was it CryptoZoo and things like that, that's got scam written all over it. They've been pump and dump, rug pulls. I mean, if anybody here watches CoffeeZilla's channel, he's got content to last him forever, just going through these crypto scams and you know, like people being conned into putting hundreds of thousands of their own money before having just a rug pulled from underneath them, and the creators walk off with all the money. And it happens week in, week out. So it is especially prevalent in the crappy coins of crypto. I don't think we've had many coins, have we, Paul? You'll be able to tell me this, that have actually risen from being a crappy coin and actually become a decent coin. I think the only one I could have thought of previously was Luna, but obviously that's gone. That's
Shiba Inu.
Shiba. Yeah, that's definitely one of them. But I remember Luna. That was a stable coin, wasn't it? Was it Terra that was a stable coin? One of the two, and that got depegged and has since gone bust. And I think he's now hiding from the South Korean police somewhere, isn't he? Do Kwon. So that's another kind of fraud. But yeah, I think it's not as prevalent as Munger tries to make it. I think Munger thinks this is kind of like where, you know, the money for child prostitution happens. I don't think that's necessarily the case. But white collar fraud, the sort of financial fraud, yeah, there's loads of it.
That's it, isn't it? It's but if you create an environment where it's available, people are going to do it. It's the
government's fault.
Yeah, it begs the questions right now, what's going to happen? And I believe there's regulation coming. And I believe the regulation will give things in crypto. I think yours and my definition of crypto are quite different here, because I don't look at any of the shitcodes at all. All of that at the bottom is just... I get some of them to say they're doing amazing things, but all of that at the bottom, I just kind of go, no, that's all just a waste of time. And that's the sort of... they're the sort of coins that I would say, okay, let's wait and see if this is legit. And the ones that I've been investing in the whole time are the two top ones, because like you say, I can't pick that needle out of that haystack, and that is literally what it is.